The worldwide leader of podcasting excellence, the King of Podcasts Radio Network proudly presents The Wrestling is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.
KOP here with you with another Wrestling is Real podcast, episode number 768. Tonight we're going to talk about AEW and the impending billion-dollar media deal they have coming up for them, which has been reported by Dave Meltzer in the Wrestling Observer newsletter. We're going to talk all about that tonight. And if you didn't get a chance to catch the post show for Backlash, I did do one on Saturday night. You can find it right now, wrestlingisreal.com, and wherever you find the show, on YouTube as well, at King of Podcasts. So it's all there for you. And, of course, you can find the show wherever you find podcasts. Apple Podcasts, please rate and review. Give a 5-star, because I need to move that thing up a little bit. Spotify, the same thing. And also, you can go and find the show on Google Podcasts and Amazon Music. Please do that. And if you want to, you can also donate to the show. You can also hit me up, paypal.me/King of Podcasts, if you'd like to do so. But please do listen to the show. If you can, please listen to the podcast and listen through it. Check out the advertisers, because that is the only money I'm getting on the show at all, if anything. And that's just a little bit that really helps out. But I'm not here to ask for much. I'm not here to go and peddle anything to you. I just don't do that. So I want to get into what's going on with AEW and what's been talked about so far. So what has really stirred everybody up at the moment? We need to go and take from Wrestling Observer, and I'm going to take the story that came from WrestlingNews.co talking about this, but we're going to go and talk about the partner of AEW Television, Warner Brothers Discovery. So here's what we got so far. Dave Meltzer is reporting the new TV deal and announcement about the new Saturday night show rumored to be AEW Collision, which is expected to be a 2-hour program on Saturday nights, will be announced at the theater at Madison Square Garden. And there's no word on how much money AEW will be getting on the new deal. Andrew Zarian previously reported the new deal will keep all AEW programming on exclusive to Warner Brothers Discovery, but Ring of Honor is not included. And this deal could potentially include streaming, and there's speculation that AEW programming and specials could air on Max, which is recently the rebranded HBO Max, which is now called Max, as coming up now here in May. It's been officially changed. Or I believe it's May 15th is the official change of Max. So that's done. There we go. They're going to get their deal. It's no doubt about it. AEW is getting a new broadcast deal. They're locked in. And the reason why they're going to get locked in, even though the ratings might not prove as much, but they've been putting out content, they're necessary in this world of television and of content right now. Let me explain what's going on. On my Broadcasters podcast, I've been talking about this. Now, this is regardless of what's going on with the writer's strike, which is the most recent thing going on right now in Hollywood. The writers that are scripting every program that's out there, okay? Everything from late night shows to comedies to dramas, streaming, network, cable or otherwise, they're all out there. Okay? And what's going on is we're getting to a point where scripted programming is a burden to a number of people. And for the cable outlets, for streamers, and for network, they all need to rely more on live programming, sports programming. And with WWE being the forerunner of also being considered as live sports programming, listen, the fact that the Endeavor deal got closed like it did gives AEW a bit of status, because, you know, Warner Brothers Discovery doesn't have to buy the kind of money that NBC Universal or Disney, or as Fox, has to put down on WWE, as they're going to do with a couple of $1 billion again or more. Because I think this time WWE is going to be able to go ahead and command more money this time around. It's crazy. But I won't be surprised. And with the Endeavor on their side, then I can just see things where Peacock must keep WWE programming. I think it's imperative for Peacock and NBC Comcast. They have to keep that on board. We also have heard a little rumors that maybe NBC Comcast would take the whole package. And maybe Endeavor could build that up. They could very well do that. But they're not. Maybe they're not. I don't know. We still have to wait and see what they're going to do with the deal. And then we have to find out where Endeavor's going to play in the deal as well. But this is all going on now. And we'll learn more about what WWE is going to get all together soon enough. We'll learn about it. We'll figure it all out. But it's fascinating nevertheless. Now, with that said, Warner Brothers Discovery, they're going to be going into new negotiations after this AEW discussion and their upfront presentation next week in New York City, that Warner Brothers Discovery is going to stay committed to sports. They most recently last year signed a new broadcast deal to carry the National Hockey League in some way, shape, or form, along with ESPN. So TBS is actually carrying Stanley Cup Finals as we speak right now. And then you also have TNT, TBS, and all the stations under Warner Brothers Discovery that are continue to carry NCAA basketball action, March Madness, which is also a great deal for them. And they're broadcasting a lot more, because even with CBS, which is partnered along with us as well, you know, in some way, shape, or form, you're starting to see, even on network TV, they're starting to show more sports programming. Like with CBS today, as I was watching, I just passed along on the channel on cable, and they were showing UEFA Champions League soccer. I'm like, really? Middle of the day. That would have never happened before, because CBS would have had several hours of soap opera programming or some other programming to do. But CBS has a number of hours of network of programming that they can take back from the network, for the affiliates, and they can do what they want, because they have to fill time depending on what networks are out there and what affiliates they have. Networks, sometimes they're going to start filling programming in the middle of the day because they have nothing else, because their scripted programming is not cutting at all, and they're not getting any numbers or ratings at all. Late mornings, sure, on some of those affiliates, they do. But they're hurting. They're all hurting. And the other thing, too, is that all the media companies right now are hurt by inflation. They're all hurt by the fact that they are all losing money in the stock market right now. Their earnings reports all in the first quarter are all bad. Paramount just came out and they gave their deal and it's down. Disney, they're all suffering right now. All the media stocks are suffering at the moment, and that's everybody. It's just bad. It's a bear market right now. Nothing can be done at this moment with what their situation is right now. It sucks for them. But Warner Bros. Discovery, they had their earnings call today. Let's talk about that real quick and bring that up. So they had their call this past Friday, and their stocks actually was lower as they were getting in, but then, and even the stock market might have been improving, their first quarter report was largely unsurprising. They're still struggling in advertising, but there's a bright spot in streaming. Revenue fell 6.5% year over year, and that's adjusting for the combination of the merger of Warner Brothers Discovery that happened back over the summer last year. And revenue fell constantly 5% year over year. And right now, the cable business is already dealing with a lot of problems. Paramount already had losses. Their revenues have fell double digits as well. Studio business saw content revenues drop 8%. They're hurting. Like, Warner Bros. Discovery is like every other media company out there. They're just hurting. NBC Comcast is also hurting. Remember, and they're all losing money. They're all losing money, okay? What are you going to do about that? What's going to be done about it? Now, Comcast stock is coming back up. They're hurting as well, but there's potential for them to come back. That's what they're expecting on that part. And as for Disney, they're getting a decline on subscribers to Disney Plus, and their earnings missed for the second quarter. They're hurting right now. Same way. So what is expected to be happening for Warner Brothers? Let's go to Hollywood Reporter. They talk about this. So it's a lackluster ad market right now, but what is getting advertising is sports. AEW falls into that category, believe it or not. So Warner Bros. Discovery that inside the NBA can give it an edge in the usual up front, because, you know, inside the NBA pre and post show on TNT does very well. Okay, they really pull ratings and they pull advertisers. So the writer's strike right now is sowing doubt about long-term scripted entertainment. That's the thing, too. At this moment, live sports or live content in general, unscripted programming. Warner Brothers Discovery already made the point when they were getting together to merge that was their focus. And then they started cutting scripted content. They started taking shows like Snowpiercer off the air and, just going across the board. Because Discovery itself didn't have that much unscripted programming. Only basically all had unscripted programming for the most part. So they're not hurting right there. And when it comes down to it, the most of the scripted programming they have in that whole media conglomerate is HBO, which has all their shows. And they're, they have what they have there, but it's 8% of their entire content. And it's all the stuff that's going on streaming to HBO Max, or now Max. But sports is big for Warner Brothers Discovery. And what their major portfolio is, they had the March Madness basketball tournament, beginning of the Major League Baseball season, and they're right in the middle of the NBA and NHL playoffs, and they cover all of them. So Louis Silberwasser, chairman of CBO of Warner Brothers Discovery Sports, says the strategy is in many ways very different from other players. We're not into tonnage. We're really about picking and having the most premium sports out there. So when these games are happening on prime time, people come to us. And the fact that they also have this, remember, for TNT or TBS, TNT has nights of NBA playoffs, but yet they're not taking away Wednesdays, which are dedicated to AEW wrestling the entire night, because now they have all access. Isn't that crazy? But it's true. So what they're saying right now is the company's sports offerings are beginning to have an impact on the bottom line because they're having a lot of trouble trying to get advertisers, trying to get ad money to pay for all this. But sports is the most important genre in all of ad-supported television. When we talk to advertisers, they could be in categories that are relatively new to TV, like if you're like a big pharma ad, right? They're saying sports is really where we're going to get the quick impact, immediate reach, and live audience that's really connected and engaged. The same thing here. Live programming, all those State Farm ads, all those ads for everything else they put up there, they're doing something. It makes a difference. Quick impact, as they said. Live unscripted programming is doing that, and especially if it's sports. Even if the ratings are not showing that kind of effect, and that's okay. But they're still holding on in their ratings. I mean, it's still, for the most part, they're still able to put 800 to 1 million viewers live, and then they get their on demand after that, which is pretty commendable. So advertising declined by 14% year over year. But it was offset because there was a lot of advertising to the March Madness tournament. And one of the other things that Warner Brothers Discovery has done really well with as well are in-studio shows for live sports. So leading the pack of that is Inside the NBA. NBA studio show hosted by Ernie Johnson. Panelists are Charles Barkley, Kenny Smith, Shaquille O'Neal, all NBA veterans. And it's among the most popular of its kind on TV. And all the main hosts were signed to new deals. And so they want to try to create a similarly playful, irreverent vibe on its NHL and MLB studio shows. Take the same format and use it. It's like when they talked about ESPN doing Monday Night Football and the Manning cast, right? Peyton and Eli Manning, and doing their style of programming. ESPN now was talking about, well, we're going to do something that's like the Manning cast for all of our sports, because they need to figure out how to do it. When they had Dan Le Batard on ESPN, all these shows now want to do a little bit of ha-ha funny like Dan Le Batard did. That was the idea. Now, Silberwasser says that I think one thing to understand about the way we do it versus others, we're not focusing on satisfying the hardcore fan. One of the things is we want to get the casual fan in. We want to get a more diverse audience. They're not just talking about facts and figures and stuff that may be interesting only for the hardcore fan. We want to make it attractive. We want to make it entertaining. And they talk about how there's moments on Inside an NBA there, not just because they're sports moments, they go viral, but because they're regular entertainment moments that are pretty cool, and they go outside the sports world. But what has to happen is they still need to have the sports rights in order to have these shows on. So they feel good about what's going on. And May 17th, they will be at the theater in Madison Square Garden to announce what they're going to be doing. They have a lot of things that they're going to be announcing when it comes to CNN going to an election year. They have their HDTV channel, Food Channel, Discovery, TLC, Oprah Network, Magnolia, great lifestyle brands, unscripted programming. So they got that to work for them, and all the sports. But they haven't made a big deal about AEW, but they're in good place. They're in a good space right now to do what they need to do with this. And that's the one thing that Tony Khan himself has actually talked about. We've actually talked about that on the program as well, about his relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery and how they've worked together. And we go back to April 19th where we talked about that. So one of the things that's being said right now is that Tony Khan is responding to Warner Brothers Discovery because they are having a massive influence on decisions that can be made. And it was a response to a Twitter user questioning Dave Meltzer about whether he believes Warner Brothers Discovery could be influencing Tony Khan's decision. And that's about CM Punk returning. And Dave Meltzer would say it's Tony's decision. He has to take many things into account. Warner Brothers is one of them. Now, besides that point, September 2022, Tony Khan talked about his relationship with Warner Brothers Discovery back then after the merger. And he says that it was not a bad thing for business. He spoke with Sportscast back time. And he said that the partnership with the conglomerate, as well as what drives revenue for AEW, both separate and related to the partnership. Quote, live events is a huge revenue driver. Merchandising is a huge revenue driver. We have huge sponsorships now. DraftKings has come in and has become an amazing sponsor for AEW. And media rights is a big part of it. Pay-per-view is a big part of it. We've been selling pay-per-views along working with Bleacher Report, in-demand pay-per-view providers, International Fight TV streaming, and our DVDs are, I think, the individual biggest revenue driver. We got this great partnership with Warner Brothers Discovery. He said, quote, and we've got the rest of this year and next year, and they've been really good to us. And I feel like not only was the original leadership so great to take a chance on an unknown company, but then post-merger, the Discovery leadership has been so supportive. And we're getting opportunities now with the new management, even bigger than we have before. We talked about that. They have the chance to promote Shark Week during AEW, and they did do that. And when they had House of the Dragon, they were able to promote that show. So people thought maybe things were going to happen with AEW and how they were going to be set up, but they're fine. And now they're going to get set up. They're going to get set up very well, handsomely, as a matter of fact. It's good for them. So what we have going on right now leading up to the announcement are a few things. Some shuffling of the programming. We already knew that a few weeks ago, AEW Dark Evolution and Dark dropped. Well, because that programming is going to probably go to Rampage. So the idea is now, as of recently, AEW is supposed to set up a new Saturday night show, believed to be called Collision, and it's supposed to be building up around a returning CM Punk. It will air as a 2-hour program on TNT starting June 17th, 2023. It's already going to happen. That's crazy. That's a quick turnaround. But that's also during the time where cable tries to get their ratings and where their advertising is all set up. So they get new programming up and going. Why not? Because the other part is that AEW already has themselves out on the road, able to go and do the taping. So maybe the turnaround for them is not going to be much for them to do anyway. There's a word about splitting the talent roster, and AEW Collision is expected to feature another major talent debut or return. Sean Ross Sapp says that there are already major plans and a marquee match tentatively scheduled for the Collision show, with CM Punk pushing for a huge match early on in his return. And the rumors are having Punk have a first program back meeting with Chris Jericho. And the taping schedule is going to go like this. That AEW already has several Saturday dates lined up for Collision. When necessary, AEW may book the same venue 2 days straight on Wednesday and Thursday to tape all their content. So the Elite and Punk will occasionally occur on Dynamite and Collision when it's called for, despite the two sides not resolving their issues. The next story was about AEW and their plans of creating what would be more like a Sunday Night E program. That's the idea for that. So Rampage is expected to showcase more young talent like Dark and Dark Elevation had been doing before AEW ended those programs. And AEW will air Dynamite live on Wednesday nights and then tape Rampage and then to air Collision before taping Ring of Honor on Saturday nights. So that's the thing. Saturday nights will be a show. Now, is it going to be live? I don't know. But that's a new show to add on Saturday nights. It's an interesting choice to go that route. And I'm not sure what to think about why they want to do AEW Collision and why that show wants to be there. But will it be? Now, this is the thing we have to talk about. So, it's a new deal anyway. And AEW gets another hour of programming. Now, I would imagine this new plan will probably take away Battle of the Belts. I think it is scrap that plan. But the reason why they want to do Saturday nights is because I guess they figure that Saturday night they could do something good with Collision and run it. Now, will Rampage still be on Friday nights? That's the only thing I don't know. Will there be a time change and take away Friday night Rampage and move it somewhere else? Like, that's the only thing I don't know what it's going to do. Now, they even said that with AEW Rampage, it's held up in recent weeks with its ratings. And it's been moved around the different time slots and different nights because of the NBA and NHL playoffs. So as a matter of fact, throughout the year, unless they've been moved around for any reason, they can still pull 500,000 viewers or 400,000 viewers, whatever. That's what they're going to get on the average. Just moving it around. But people are still interested in Rampage because they do plan on it. They do put things behind it. So what do you do here? So Ring of Honor will not have a TV show yet that will be on cable or streaming or anything like that. At least we don't know. Collision. I'm trying to wrap my head around what that's going to be and what they're going to do. And if they're going to do they don't need to do a significant split like WWE does. We don't need to have that going on. That would be a bad idea. We don't need a brand split. I just think that you have somewhat of a brand split like you did with Rampage, but then you have what you do is with a 2-hour show like that, you should have some of the other major stars on that show now. And just, you kind of go with it and just focus on it. Dynamite's still the marquee show. But now, with Saturday nights, the question will be, now, here's what they haven't said. What they were saying right now is that they would move the dates of recording if they're not doing Saturday nights for Collision. That's because of the pay-per-views. Now, the other question is, are we going to make sure that the pay-per-views stay at every quarter? Or are they going to still be for a year? I want that to be also a thing that Tony Khan continues. I don't want him to go extra. I don't think he doesn't have to, right? He's going to have Ring of Honor pay-per-views that take up like 7 dates. Like that takes up like 3 or 4 dates a year. And Forbidden Door now adds an extra one to the mix. And plus he has All In London. Like this time around, he's going to have like 8 pay-per-views this year. That's under Tony Khan's tutelage, right? We don't need more than that. It's not necessary. And we definitely don't need once a month. So far, everything's been fine with that. And, Dynamite and Rampage have definitely been distinguished and different, which is good. And I like all that. But they don't need to do more than that. Not necessary. So this is all good stuff. And I can appreciate where they're going to go, what the plan is, the modus operandi for all of this. Let's see what they do. Now, not much I'm going to go and talk about when it comes to the TV shows this week. I see that Kenny Omega got stabbed, and Don Callis turns on the Elite, and he now sides with the Blackpool Combat Club. Wow. That's wild. And other than that, there was nothing else that I really thought that I really felt like I wanted to bring up that was WWE related. I mean, we could go ahead and talk about some of the things that it just felt kind of off when it comes to them anyway, with some of the things that they've done right? Like, I'm trying to look and see what there was that really made me feel like, wow, there's something about their plan. But nothing stood out to me on Raw or SmackDown that really made me feel like, don't get me wrong, they did fine. Like, the ratings actually did okay, 1.78. They're holding on. It will drop once Monday Night Football comes back in the fall. But at least they're doing this. It's about what they expect. And they went up against some pretty big games. The NBA playoffs right now are going to pretty big Eastern Western Conference semifinals. Because what was it, Monday night? They had the Celtics and the Sixers, and that got 4.5 million viewers, blowing up the spot. And the second game, 7.522 million viewers, 2.71 key demo, and that was the Lakers and the Warriors, so that got a bigger rating. So they went up against big NBA competition and did well. I give them credit on that. Now, there's been talk about late changes being happening to Raw once again. That show continues to get tweaked. The World Heavyweight Title Tournament, they decided to do 2 3-way matches. If it was Triple H whirling things, they wouldn't be rushing the tournament over 2 nights. That is a Vince thing. And then now there's word. Well, they're trying to say that there was a production assistant that, according to Sean Ross Sapp, that a production assistant did run out and hand out a new format sheet. We don't know what that's going to be yet. But the World Heavyweight Title Tournament and the way they positioned it makes me feel like they were, well, they have to, I mean, they could have done it over 2 weeks. I think it would have been better if they did it over 2 weeks, but I get it. Okay. Then they have to just set up the world title match and get it ready for Night of Champions in, 3 weeks? Or actually 2 weeks. Okay. Benefit of the doubt. I'll give them that. But and they're going to also have it where Raw and SmackDown will have their own separate nights of these 2 3-way matches. Yeah, you don't have to do, individual qualifying matches, things like that. I get that. Okay. 6 opponents from Raw, 6 from SmackDown, and they all got to the World Heavyweight title with the whole confusion about, well, why is it the SmackDown stars can go after that title? I'm not here to go ahead and try to justify this. I don't care about the brand split. I could care less. Much like I don't care about this consolation's prize that is the World Heavyweight title. You can make that position. You can do it whatever you want. But it's just going backwards. But they have to do something to make that title be out there, because then the World Heavyweight title can be defended on house shows. That's the real importance of it. Plus, you'll have that title defended on every pay-per-view. Meanwhile, Roman Reigns only has to defend the Undisputed Universal Championship on major pay-per-views. Probably the big 4, and that's about it. And that's all he's got to do. You're placating to your top star. But this is the broken record I'm here with. They're going to continue to do the same thing as they always do, where there's one top star and no one else is allowed to be on top or be in the marquee headline for long with said Roman Reigns. That's all. That doesn't matter to them. They just prefer to do it this way, and that's what they want. All right. We'll leave it there. That is the program tonight. Thanks for listening in and finding it as you always do. WrestlingIsReal.com. That's where everything is at for the show. And like I said, I did the post show. So with that said, I'm going to keep it nice and easy and not stress too much. I'm just going to go ahead and work my way through and finish up. That's all I got to do. All right. So anyway, that's going to do it for the Wrestling Is Real podcast, which is a service of the King of Podcast Radio Network. Make sure to check out the website, WrestlingIsReal.com. PayPal.me/King of Podcast. If you want to drop a little bit of drop a nickel or a penny right there for your old Uncle King of Podcast to help out the show. You can find the show on Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and I'm on social media. You can find me on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and TikTok at King of Podcasts. And until next week, come back for another Wrestling Is Real podcast, because wrestling needs us.